Okay. Hello, everybody. We are back for another episode of Unfuck Your Body, right? Today we are talking about the elbow. Oh, the elbow. Okay, basically the knee of your upper body. We want to make sure that what is going on above and below this joint is helping out this joint, right? So oftentimes we have a lot of elbow problems that are not specifically to do with the elbow. So we're going to dive deep a little bit here and talk about what things you can do in order to check to see if it's fucked up, unfuck it up, and then don't fuck it up again. We're waiting on Dr. Arnika to join in. She should be chiming in any second now, and then we will get started. Please, as always, if you have any questions or if you feel like you know somebody that would benefit from this, let them know. Share it with them. We are trying to get the message out, people, and we need your help to do so. All right, here we go. Welcome. What is happening? Okay. All right. I was like, where is she? There she is. All right. What's up, Doc? How are you?
I'm doing great, Ty. How are you?
I like the fresh haircut.
Thank you. I'm feeling good. I am feeling myself.
Good. All right. Good. All right. So we're talking about the elbow. I already did a little bit of an intro, but I talked about how the elbow is generally the knee of the upper body, and that a lot of the issues that happen in the elbow really don't have shit to do with the elbow, right? There's a lot, right? So one of my biggest things with the elbow is, was there blunt force trauma?
Right.
If there was not, probably not the elbow, right? So how do we assess the elbow, Doc?
So the first thing that I look at is a full range of motion, and do you have it? So our elbow does more than just flexion and extension. We also have pronation and supination. So checking to see, can you move in all ranges, controlled and without pain?
Yeah. And then bilaterally too, especially my barbell athletes, you do have the same range from left to right, because you're asking a lot of your body, especially with the barbell. Dumbbells, you have a little more freedom of movement, but with a barbell, you're asking a lot of one arm and the other. And if they're not symmetrical, very hard to do with the human body, but if they're not close to symmetrical,
right,
then you're really stressing one out more so than the other. So yes, flexion, extension, and supination and pronation. And one of the things with supination and pronation, oh my goodness, is especially so many people working from home and working on computers. What is happening at the elbow?
We are creating so much tension on these flexors.
Yes.
And we are causing so much compression, and that leads to, we're going to get into that later, but some nerve things, which is a totally different thing, but leads to so many issues.
And just one side more so than the other, right? Especially if you're at your laptop, imagine you're just kind of like this, and flexors one thing, but also the extensors, right? You're forced to hold your hand up the whole time and be in a position that we don't really want to be in, right? Especially for a long duration. And then the mouse, a lot of people hold their mouse out in front here. I always tell them to bring it in front of them and right in front of their chest and in a more neutral position, so that you can relax all the way down and kind of get a little bit relief in the wrist, because all those muscles that go through the wrist go up into the elbow. Right?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, we should probably cover a little basic anatomy, but yes, all the tendons and everything that go through the hand land here. So that's why when you feel like you have tennis elbow or golfer's elbow, a lot of it could be coming from the wrist, right? Which we're not talk about that general blanket statement of you got tennis elbow. That shit pisses me off. Yeah. Oh, you got tennis elbow. Great. Have you ever played tennis? No. All right.
No. Right.
Probably a lot going on. But yes, it is a blanket term. But that just means that you have like tendonitis or some tendinopathy of the extensors, and then the inside is the flexors, right? So, but those are the muscles that go through there, and if you irritate them doing something else, it will land in the elbow, but not necessarily mean that your elbow is
the problem. Right.
Right. Exactly. All right. So checking range of motion. And then do we just check the elbow for flexion, extension, supination, pronation, or what else can we check?
No, we have to check above and below, because shit will be fucked up.
Right.
Biggest thing is the shoulder. Some of the issues that I notice a lot of people don't have that shoulder flexion. Maybe they have some impingement going on, and our nerves and things on these muscles connect from our shoulder. So if that's we're cramping down on that, we start feeling some issues in our elbow, especially like in that tricep area. So we got to check the range of motion in the shoulder.
Yep. shoulder, and then wrist as well. Again,
Right.
my barbell athletes. Are you trying to force yourself in a front rack position and you don't have wrist flexibility, so then it's just traveling up to the elbow and you're causing a compression injury to your elbow? That's
the biggest thing that I see. If I see someone who does CrossFit and they come in with the elbow, I'm like, so have you done any front squats? Or let me see. Most of the time it's one wrist isn't as flexible and they're still trying to power through, and we get that elbow pain.
Yeah, we see a lot of people too, if they don't have the speed of the elbows in the turning over of the clean, the elbows drop low, right? And they don't get it all the way up, or they're trying to max out their power clean and they're not getting under the bar enough. So then their elbows are slow, and then you catch the bar low and you cause this compression injury of the elbow. If you don't get those elbows up and around, you're exposing yourself to trauma. And that, a compression injury, is trauma, right?
Right, exactly.
We are looking at the elbow specifically being fucked up, right? You catch a clean wrong and you're like, shit, that just hurt my elbow. That is termed as trauma, right? That is not overuse. That is blunt force trauma. We're going to have to deal with that. But yes, slow elbows on the clean can definitely fuck it up. And then the range of motion in the shoulders, I see it all the time. Or just tension in the
traps,
causing this radiating and this just loss of position down the arm, and it just landing in the elbow, right? So definitely checking above and below, hugely, hugely important. So what about hypermobility?
That is huge. One thing besides the thumb I check is when I'm looking at their elbow, how much extension do they have?
Right. Yeah. I mean, genu recurvatum, they usually have it in the knees and in the elbows. And if you have a tendency to just fall into this hyperextension, I have a client that has that right now, and we've been really working on her positional awareness when she's doing overhead pressing, when she's doing push-ups. Like, you don't want to just press and land in this hyperextended position. You want to be able to know where your controlled end range is and where you are stacking your bones without compromising and stacking into a hyperextended position, because that is going to cause trauma over the course of time.
Exactly. That control is the biggest thing with hypermobility.
Yeah, control and just recognizing, right? Like, your positional awareness is going to be huge when you go into those overhead positions with a loaded barbell or in the snatch position. You can't just fall into that, and that takes training. Yeah, so hypermobility, huge. We talked a little bit about neural involvement, but if there's any radiating, tingling, burning, it's probably there's a nerve getting impinged somewhere along the route. You could get your cervical spine checked out.
Yep.
Right?
Definitely. I'm working with a client right now who she's a teacher, so she's been sitting at the computer and has been feeling carpal tunnel stuff. And we realized she thought it was her elbow, and it was coming from, actually it started from her neck and worked its way down. Those nerves come from here, work our way through our shoulder and down our elbow. So I work here, but most of the time it started in one of these places. Yeah. Which is going to lead to, we talked about posture is going to come up.
Yep, carpal tunnel. That's another one.
Yes. Oh my God. It pisses me off. I have so many people who get surgery on their carpal tunnel. If you have carpal tunnel syndrome, PSA, come find me. Okay? Because we do not need to just go and cut in nerves and make them even shorter than what they already are.
Well, girl, we're going to talk about that next week.
Okay. Yes. Sorry, I'm getting excited.
We're on the same page with that. Pisses me off. All right. So yeah, if there's any neural involvement, just know that that's probably coming. Your nerve runs the whole route, right? It starts at the spine, but it goes all the way to the tips of your fingers. So if it's getting impinged somewhere along that route, it might not be the elbow. It could be higher, right? Or if you're getting tingling in your your last fingers, maybe it is getting impinged at the elbow, and you got to work on it there. But you have to figure out where along that nerve route it is getting impinged and deal with it at the source, right?
Right.
So yes, so we talked about that. If pain is present, was there trauma? Was there a compression injury? Or are we dealing with an overuse problem, right? That's how we find out if it is fucked up. How do we unfuck it up? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was about to say something that's overused, we got to think about on a daily basis. I was seeing this client who she was having elbow issues, and for the longest time I'm like, what's going on? What are you doing throughout your day that's bothering you? So she was an admin and she was filing, so all she did all day was this motion, and I'm like, this is the issue, we have to fix that. So don't think about even just lifting weights, just what are you doing in your daily routine that could be causing that same overuse injury. That was it.
I love examining that. I love diving a little deeper. Like, yeah, you spend some time in the gym.
Right.
That is minimal impact to your body,
Right.
right? Like really, it really is, right? Like what is happening outside the gym? I have a whole lecture on it, low burst capacity. What's happening outside to really have an impact on your posture, on your positions, everything, right? Breastfeeding moms. Do you know how
Yes.
hold your breast when you are feeding it to a child? It is not comfortable. I had the worst thumb issues when I was breastfeeding. I was like, this is not okay. And me knowing what I know, I was able to put that together. But I know so many women that are like, I don't understand what happened. And I'm like, sweetheart, like the amount of time that you spend pressing your breast into this,
Yes,
there's
yes.
problems. So
I was working with
it's
a
tough.
mom who had a similar issue breastfeeding, and hers was her elbow, but it's because
Yes.
she wasn't stabilizing her shoulder, and she was literally arming and holding. So it's a huge thing.
It's huge. It's huge to examine what is happening with your life outside of whatever exercise or even outside of where you feel the pain, right? Like if you
Right.
might feel the pain in a certain position or doing a certain thing or a certain lift, blah, blah, whatever, but that might not be the actual thing that is causing the irritation. You might just be feeling it then,
Right.
but it might be being irritated from something else. And that's what we really need to flush out. All right. So how do we unfuck it up? What is one thing we can do?
I always like to start with isometrics so that people can start to
Couple it.
feel. Yes, people. We need to be able to feel. You talk about positional awareness. We need to be able to feel and be aware of what muscles that we're using. That it's more than just we're just flexion and extension, especially in pronation and supination. So I can do isometrics in the elbow.
Isometrics for sure, especially with that hypermobility, right? Let's get into the position that you're supposed to be in, and then let's lock that shit in and start owning that position. Like we have to really make sure that we can find that position at any time, right? Which takes work. That takes a lot of effort, especially if you're used to falling into a certain position. So yes, isometrics are high up on the list for anything that I want to fix, right? So, all right. And then what about supination, pronation exercises?
Yes, those are my favorite. I like to, one of the exercises that I send to clients if they're having some elbow issues is using something that's kind of unstable. So either like you can use like a broomstick or like a hammer is my favorite because it's heavier on one side. And learning how to own that position and slowly, we're not dropping down and forth, we're controlling it on the way down and up so we can start strengthening our extensors.
Yeah.
Those are one of the biggest muscles that we're not worried about because we do everything here. We type here, we text here, and we need to learn how to strengthen the outside of that arm.
Yeah, we do all our grip exercises and everything are squeezing in, not opening up. So one of the things I like to do too is use a band. I like to use a mini band because that's also an increasing resistance. You can take it with you anywhere and you can hold it on one side and pull it that direction. So yeah, banded, supination, pronation, weighted, all those things. I wonder if I have a rubber band here. I do.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things I like to do is opening up, right? So I like to have people work on this. The second I see elbow or wrist issues, I tell people just put this around your wrist and then pull it out every once in a while when you think about it. I like to do extension and I also like to keep it open. And it's amazing how many people will not have the control here. We can talk about this more with the wrist, but it does have to do with the elbow. Hugely important with the elbow.
Yeah.
But also opening it up, making sure that you still stay in this balled position and that you're not flattening out, right? This is a defect, right? Like you don't want to not have the ability to keep the fingers flexed as you open and then keeping it there and doing a figure eight. Like have control with maintaining that extension. So that's a huge one for me. We do so much squeezing. Do we do enough opening up? I actually gave that to my mom years ago because she sits at a computer and does reservations and she was suffering with carpal tunnel issues. And I was like, please don't get surgery. Let's try this first. She's done it for the last 8 years, never had surgery. So there's little things that you can do. It's literally a rubber band dangling on her desk. And so she does it all the time. Anyways, so yes, so supination, pronation, wrist exercises. What about nerve flossing?
Yes, nerve flossing is huge. So we have some nerves that run, we're not a nerve ball, but one in the front, essentially one in the back, because I can totally know that about that. But making sure that we can floss and feel that nerve gliding. Every nerve has its own groove to the muscle, and at times we just have stuff that kind of interrupts that spot. So feeling that nerve gliding and realizing that we incorporate our hand all the way up to our neck.
Yeah, and I like to tell people, like, you can't really overdo nerve glides, so try to do them throughout the day. right? Like, especially if you're at a, you know, heightened sensitivity point, right? Like if you're sitting at your desk and you're like, man, why are my fingers falling asleep? Let's floss that shit out, right?
Right, right. Get
Lives,
it
right? Like,
moving. Slow and control,
yeah,
get
and
it moving.
sometimes they cause a lot of irritation. Like I have some people where I give a medium nerve glide and they're like, oh, medium nerve glide, and they're like, wow, this is not comfortable. And I'm like, all right, well, let's regress it a little bit. But obviously, if you can't do that, that is something that we aspire to be able to do, right? Like you should be able to do it on both sides fairly comfortably. And if there is something impacting that, you got to do it more often. So I usually tell people do it 3-4 times a day. Like let's just get it out right before bed. That'll help you minimize that tingling in the middle of the night. And then first thing when you wake up, while you're sitting at your desk, before you start working out, you know, like, let's just glide that shit out, right? It's something very, very minimal that you can do that will have a huge impact, but you have to stay on it. You have to be very consistent with something like that.
Definitely.
Right. So nerve glides, what about cars?
Oh, yes, some elbow cars. I was about to say shoulder cars. So the biggest thing is make sure we're taking our elbows through the entire range of motion and everything slow and controlled. So making sure your feel going down into extension, rotating your palms over, and then bringing up into flexion. So those are some motions that we can do through cars, just allowing you to feel the awareness and control through each range.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the best thing about cars is slowing down, right? Slowing down, staying in a controlled position, staying within the range that you have, and not trying to force yourself somewhere that you're not ready to be. So yes, I love cars. I think they're huge. And probably another thing that we really can't get enough of, right? Like,
yes,
let's just do them regularly.
Yeah. I do cars on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Like, you know, let me sit here and do some cars on my hip.
There's a general routine you can do for your whole body, right? I've actually given this advice. I should probably record it and post it as content, but you can do every single joint. You can just work your way up through all these lives, circle all of those joints around, and you will have done a full body car session, right?
Yes.
Don't overthink it, right? I think a lot of people think cars can be very complicated, which they can be. You can spend a lot of time really, really, really perfecting positions on cars, or you can just spend time circulating your joints and moving them through a range that you have, and that will be beneficial.
Definitely. It will change. It will make a huge difference in the long run.
Huge difference, especially if you're consistent about it. So yeah, I think maybe we should do something like that. All right, so put it on the list.
All right, exactly. Add it to the list.
All right, so positioning and alignment. So this is one of the biggest things that I work on with clients when they come to me and they're dealing with anything with the hip, the knee or the elbow, right? The elbow specifically, is where is your alignment in your pressing and pulling patterns? What I see a lot of is winging out. And so people are trying to press and they're not locking in their shoulder position and keeping their elbow in line where it's supposed to be. So it's going to land somewhere, that stress, and it generally tends to land in the elbow if you're out of alignment. So making sure that your neck is in alignment when you're doing pressing patterns, making sure that your elbow is stacked between your wrist and your shoulder when you're trying to do any pressing or pulling. Hugely, hugely important.
It's really huge with the neck. One of the things that I'm noticing with a client that I'm seeing too, who's experiencing stuff in her elbow, is how much of the forward head carriage she has. So when she does go to the gym and she wants to put stuff over her neck, over her head, her neck is still up like this, and we start compensating in our shoulders. And before we know, we also start causing some issues in the base of our neck, which can lead to issues in our elbow. That has, once again, nothing to do with the elbow whatsoever.
Yeah. Once again, it's just landing there, right? It's not to say that the elbow is the problem. It's just landing there. So how can we peel back the layers to really uncover what the actual root of the problem is, right? And that's where the assessment comes in, and making sure that you have somebody that will screen absolutely everything that's going on. It's not just, let me look at your elbow, right? So,
right.
I think we say this every single week, but we're just trying to get that point across, people. All right, so we talked about, is it fucked up? How do you unfuck it up? And now, how do you not fuck it up again?
We need to add in training in all ranges. Once again, more than just flexion and extension. We're always focused on this. We need to add some movement into pronation and supination. And I don't think people realize, but depending on how you press up above your head, you add some of that in there too. So just make sure we switch up maybe the grips and how we're pushing or how we're pressing. That's something you can do within your routine that will help you start to train that movement.
Absolutely. And that's also a good way to minimize the irritation. So if you know that pronated grip with the palms facing forward pull-ups cause irritation on the elbow, maybe switch to neutral grip. That could relieve a lot of the pressure there as you're rehabbing. You don't cause further irritation, right? With the goal of then slowly integrating pronation and spending time there, but releasing that irritation for a while so that you allow time to heal, right? So there's different positioning of the wrist will relieve so much pressure on the elbow on all your pressing and pulling patterns, right? So if it hurts to barbell press, have you tried dumbbell neutral grip pressing? That might feel 20 million times better, right? Do that while you're healing, right? With the goal of being able to do that, the other one again, right? Like we don't want to just negate all those exercises and be like, those hurt me. No, they hurt you right now. The goal would be for you to be able to do those again, right? So what about, correct positioning when we return to sport? So with the cleans and stuff too. So if you know that you're causing compression injury to your elbows and you're catching your cleans low, how about we work on the technique of your cleans in order to fix elbows? Sounds like it to me.
Right. We got to break that. We got to break that movement down.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I've seen is that you just can't get their arm up. That lat is so tight, and then it lands in our elbow. Right. So we are looking at something above. Yeah. But we won't know that until we have to slow down, stop, assess, and go through that movement. Yeah.
Or maybe you're trying to do too heavy too soon and you don't have the capability to really get it around in the right position. So you're struggling through it. You might have PR'd your clean. It looked like shit. You hurt your elbow. You fucked up your wrist, but you got your PR. Congratulations. Are you going to strip the weight off now and really work on dialing technique in? Because little by little, all those little micro impacts are going to have a huge impact, or going to have a huge impact later, right? All those little micro traumas will have a huge impact. And then 6 months later, you're not gonna be able to clean a barbell for shit because your elbow is gonna be like, nope, absolutely not. So making sure that you have the correct technique on cleans, on barbell pressing, making sure that you're not winging out and pressing up and not locking in those shoulders and actually activating those lats and packing that shoulder, making sure that you're not doing, kipping pull-ups and causing too much stress without the stability and strength to hold that together, right? Like you gotta crawl before you walk, and too much too soon is gonna have a huge, huge impact. So, all right, what about, and then controlling hyperextension, right? So we add intensity, we add load, we fall apart, right? So making sure that our return to sport is complementary to us healing and staying in a safe position, right? And that's really, really, really the hardest part. Return to sport is incredibly frustrating, but let's minimize risk of injury, right?
It needs to be done. It needs to be done.
And then one of my biggest things is, what about overuse, right? So
we got to change what we're doing on a daily basis. One of the biggest things is we take care of clients and we want to help and they feel better, and then they wonder why something starts bothering them a couple of days later. Well, did you change anything throughout your daily routine that was bothering you? So we got to stop overusing it. And we got to start. One of the biggest things is I like doing on a daily basis, especially if you're working on a computer, is lengthening out the front of that arm and chilling and straightening out the back. And you realize that over time, consistent steps, that will help with some of these overuse injuries that we're experiencing, because we spend 8 hours in that position as opposed to 30 minutes or 45 minutes in the gym,
Yeah. And that's continuous, right? Like, it's not like you're just going to rehab and then not work anymore, right? So whatever was causing that trauma or that overuse before, it's going to keep happening. So how do we manage it? We got to keep this shit up, right? Like we said that last week, I think maybe even for 2 weeks, we've been saying this, like your rehab, if you're doing your rehab and you're really aggressively working on an injury, once you're healed and you're pain-free, you don't just forget that. You have to keep it up. There are certain positions and certain stressors in your life that are causing this issue. Unless you completely plan on eliminating all of those, which is very hard for us to do, you have to make sure that you keep touching upon these rehab exercises 2 or 3 times a week. They just got to become part of your routine.
Exactly.
Especially older. Shit falls apart, right?
Exactly. My body doesn't do what it used to do.
We got to give our bodies a little bit more TLC. I said a little thing yesterday. I was like, you got to treat your body with the respect that it deserves, right? And you got to show it that you love it and that you care for it. Like, you have to talk to your body. You have to tell your body, hey, I respect you. I will do what it takes for you to function for me. Take care of me, right?
Right. You only get one body. That's exactly
if you respect your body, it will respect you. It will serve you. It will. There's no reason that your body shouldn't be able to do all the things. But you got to show it some love. Like, you got to give it the love. All right. And then overuse injuries, as far as like looking at your training week, right? I'm talking to my CrossFitters, my high intensity folks, my boot campers. What does your weekly schedule look like? Is it a program that you follow that actually has a thought process behind it? Is it something that somebody is looking at the programming and going, man, that's a lot of pushing. I should probably put some pulling in there, right? Or we've been overhead pressing for 3 weeks straight. No wonder all my clients have shoulder issues, stuff like that, right? Like, so is this somebody that's putting together a thoughtful program, making sure that you are balanced in your pressing and pulling patterns and that everything is not falling out of position and you're not doing too much overuse, right? All these push-up challenges.
Oh my gosh, that's all I see. We do so much pushing and then they come in. And I'm just like, oh, my back hurts. Well, you never pull anything.
Right.
We have to pull.
Yeah.
So I'm like, can we pull more than we push? Maybe we should. I'm going to just start making pull challenges. We need to pull. I'd rather you pull more than you push.
I know. Beginning of quarantine, there was all these push-up challenges. And I was like, I challenge you to isometrics.
Right. Can you do that? You'd be surprised about how people can't hold themselves.
Wish I was more popular. It would have taken off. Anyway, so looking at your programming. And speaking of programming, right? Tomorrow the cart opens for Focus, and how's my programming, Arnika?
It is fucking awesome.
Pretty proud.
I've been doing so much better, feeling so much stronger. Like, it's amazing. It's exactly what I needed with my stuff I have going on. I'm loving it.
Yeah. I mean,
it's gotten longer, these workouts, But
I know they get a little more intense.
I was like, oh, that's the warm up. Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, your workouts end up becoming your warm up, and then we move on. Absolutely, that's the progression. But yeah, there's a lot of thought behind this. I try to make sure that, like, all the injuries that I've seen, I try to put it all in there. We touch on everything so that no matter what is going on in your body, we will address at some point something that might be going on with you, because I try to go joint by joint and make sure that all the rehab is in there. So yes, the Focus program is very thoughtful and very geared towards fixing things as you get stronger and get strong the right way. So yeah,
it's awesome. Y'all check it out.
Yes, absolutely. It's awesome. Cart opens tomorrow for the general public. So what else do we got? I think that's it. The elbow. Next week we are going to discuss
the wrist.
Which will look a little similar, but there's a lot that goes on in the wrist and a lot that people
in the hand. Yeah.
There's a lot of structures there, so we'll talk about that. But yeah, join us next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. for Unfuck Your Wrist.
Yes, guys. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.